First rave was EDC of 2010, and honestly, I don't even know how many raves I've gone to after that. I could say I usually like over 30 or 50. I don't know.
That was Cyberfest in 2002. Held at, actually I don't know, kind of forgot. It's been a long time since 2002.
Rave culture originated in the United Kingdom in the 1980s and became popular in the United States as the disco era came to an end. Rave culture began to see significant growth because it incorporated disco culture's same love of dance music and hedonism.
I should say that I'm originally from Europe, and so over there the whole rave scene is pretty common. So the first rave that I've attended I was about 16 years old, and it was in Berlin, Germany.
My first rave was in 2007. It was in downtown Los Angeles, right below the skyline. It was called Nocturnal Wonderland. I really never know anything about raving, really. On the East Coast, it's all kind of taboo. Same thing with like ecstasy and all like rave drugs and stuff. So I really didn't know what to expect, but it ended up being, just kind of normal for the most part. But yeah, that was probably when I was introduced to like dance music in California.
My first rave was in October 2009. It was Monster Massive. And since then, to date, probably between 25 and 30 events. Usually an event every other week. It's pretty much the schedule for my 2010.
My first rave, I would have to say, was when I was in high school. Maybe between junior and senior year, like maybe that summer. And it was, I don't know what the event was called or anything, but it was out in Modesto, like in a cornfield.
I have never been to a rave per se, but I have given light shows, and they are quite fun. I don't like the music, and I think it's kind of a false, really aesthetically based grouping of people. But like, I mean, I've met ravers who in high school who were like really close, and they actually, like this one guy who was kind of awkward with himself, actually like kind of became a much more comfortable person socially, and was able to like interact with a lot more people and just like seemed a lot more comfortable with himself once he started going to raves. But he also like started doing drugs and started, partying all the time. And I think he did okay in school, but like obviously it was not a totally positive thing.
On December 22nd, 2010, Assemblywoman Fiona Ma introduced legislation to ban raves in California. The bill was meant to crack down on underage drug use. In a press release, Assemblywoman Ma stated, "Raves in California are notoriously associated with the use of the drug commonly known as ecstasy. Many of the attendees are minors, and the events have led to extensive pressure on law enforcement and emergency medical responders. Raves foster an environment that threatens the health and safety of our youth. The introduction of AB 74 is the first step toward eliminating these dangerous events."
My first thoughts and impressions onto it, of course, is a strong opposition against it. Any sort of bill or anything that represents something towards the destruction of something that I love so much immediately causes me to be against it. And I strongly think that it's just simply unconstitutional if you read into the bill and what it represents. And it's just another push forward into someone trying to eliminate the scene entirely.
The attack is, is not with good reason or not with the right reason, because that happens outside of those raves anyway. There are many cases where people overdose, and just the fact that it happened at that rave doesn't mean that it won't happen anywhere else. If people do drugs, it's on, it's something that they will do whether they're at a rave or a club or even a smaller venue, right? If we were to attack something, I mean, we should start attacking the federal government and their drug trafficking, but that's a different subject altogether. And so if you wanted to actually, now they're not attacking the raves themselves, they're attacking drug use, but they're blaming it on raves. And so whoever came up with that, with this idea of restricting raves altogether, because it's kind of saying, oh, because of raves, that's why we have overdoses, it's idiotic.
The whole idea of the Rave Act was the key wording was pre-recorded music, and I don't know a lot of genres that have full band live sets that is like something isn't pre-recorded, because that affects hip-hop music, pop music. Not every pop star is going to have a 26-member band to recreate studio sound. So if you want to go attack electronic music, I'd say that's one issue, but the idea of trying to attack pre-recorded music just seems kind of silly, I'd say, because it's affecting more than just dance music, which is what they're going after.
Famous DJs collaborated with the Los Angeles County Department of Public Health to release a public service announcement warning about the dangers of ecstasy.
When I'm at the decks, I can play deep. Or I can play hard.
I can play quiet. And I can play loud. I rock the mic and that's no.
But if I don't watch what I'm doing, I'll lose the crowd.
One thing you don't want to play with is ecstasy.
Rolling on ecstasy can cause heart problems, brain damage, stroke, and possibly death.
Take some breaks to cool off and sip on some water.
Avoid energy drinks and caffeine, and don't mix drugs and alcohol.
If you or your friends feel hot or sick, it's okay to ask for help.
Never buy drugs or accept drinks from strangers. You never know what you're gonna get.
You can choose to take nothing at all. Educate yourself and your friends on how to stay safe.
So we can all play.
Play. Play another day.
Alright, so do you think there's anything that the government needs to do to ensure people's safety, or does that fall under the promoters or the people who put on the events, or is it just personal responsibility?
So I think in this case, if it's not to the promoter, it's not how should I say? The promoter could themselves take on that responsibility, but I think even promoters are citizens, right? Regular citizens, just like the people that are attending the events. So I think the government can step in and do something. Can do something to maybe prevent or try to keep people from hurting themselves. Or if they are going to restrict in any way, they should restrict maybe have like a limit on the population that would be attending the event.
I think it kind of actually probably the responsibility goes, in my opinion, would go to the rave sponsors and the people who actually put on those events and to have like medical people there, to have paramedics on the scene, to have people making sure it's safe, because it's their responsibility. I don't think it's the government's responsibility at all. I think it's the people who are in charge of these events. It's their responsibility to make sure that the people who are listening to their music and coming to have a good time at this event sponsored by them, they're not dying.
I mean, with raves, there's the issue of ecstasy. So it's like there could be a booth there that says if you're on ecstasy, here's something how you can here we can help you. But instead they're just kind of the help only comes when someone's overdosing, sort of. So I mean, I would definitely move. Coming back to the idea of regulations, I would definitely move them all to like 18 and over. I would say that should be pretty mandatory.
What should be done is a lot more emphasis on safety tips, safety measurements, knowledge into what people are taking, a lot more safety measures regarding EMTs, and a lot more measures regarding water at these events.
You know, you hate to see people, you know, overdose or go too far, push it to the limits, but in that sort of sense, it's like, I believe, you know, it's their own fault. Like, nobody's pushing them to go that limit, you know, it's all up to them, you know, like nobody's, you know, forcing drugs down their throats, and nobody's forcing them to just act all crazy and, you know, and just go too far. But so I know it's sad, but it's just, you can't stop people from doing what they want to do. You can try to enforce it, try to monitor it, trying to, you know, point them in the right direction, keep them in line, you know, make sure they're still having fun. But eventually people are just going to be people, and if they want to have fun, there's no stopping them.